Because you get married and you're in love and you enjoy being together, and then you add responsibility and more responsibility, and then maybe kids and more responsibility and more responsibility, and pretty soon you feel like you're just working together. If you want to keep enjoying your marriage over time, keep the aha in your marriage. And what do we mean by aha? Well, Psalm 90 verse 12 says, "Teach us to number our days that we may gain a heart of wisdom." And we have talked in the past about having a meeting where you as a couple keep keep in sync with one another. And the reason for that meeting is to keep the aha alive. And the A in aha stands for attitudes. And there are two attitudes that will cement you together as a couple for the rest of your days. The first attitude is, we are in this together.
And we're better together. That's the second.
Right. So often what happens in marriage is you start to compete with one another to see whose agenda is right and whose agenda is better. But the reality is you're better together. And so if you have a way of reminding yourself, and we wrote a book called
The Marriage Meetup, and there's a template in there that'll help walk you through the steps to success in a marriage meetup. And having a way to make sure your attitudes are in the right place is a great way to start. So we always start with praying, and then we bring a verse that maybe God has brought across our path in our quiet times in a sermon, that reminds us of our spouse in some positive way. And then we'll pray that verse over each other, and we each bring a verse.
And the H stands for habits. Because if you don't translate your desires as a couple into actual processes and habits that you do as a couple, then life just starts to get unorganized, and then you start to argue with each other. So it takes habits to organize your schedule, to keep on top of your finances, to know what your priorities are, and what projects need to be finished in the next month or so.
And who's going to do what.
Right. And then the last A is for affection. Because again, you aren't just having a business meeting with each other. You aren't just working through life together. In fact, you probably have figured out the obstacle to intimacy is responsibility. Because you get married and you're in love and you enjoy being together, and then you add responsibility and more responsibility, and then maybe kids and more responsibility and more responsibility, and pretty soon you feel like you're just working together. And so over time, you want to keep the affection alive. So Pam, how do we keep the affection going?
Well, one of the first things that happens in our marriage meetup is we decide when we're going to have our date night and when we're going to have what we call red hot monogamy.
Yep.
Light at the end of the tunnel, something to look forward to, right?
And then at the beginning and the ending of our meeting, we take time to compliment one another.
And we give those, at the beginning of the meeting, we thank our spouse for something we saw in the last week. Thank you for being there for me. Thank you for handling this task. We bring in some kind of an affirmation, encouragement. And at the end of the meeting, we thank them for something that happened during that meeting.
And that energizes Philippians 1 verse 7, which says, "It's right for me to feel this way about you because I have you in my heart." And when you carry your spouse in your heart, which you can cultivate that by continually reminding yourself of the value that your spouse brings to your life. And when I carry Pam in my heart, I give her the benefit of the doubt, and I really am not very critical of her. But if our hearts disconnect, then we start evaluating each other based on behavior. And at that point, you're always in trouble because nobody behaves good enough for long enough to meet the other person's expectations.
So have a marriage meetup, a meetup that you look forward to, and it'll keep your hearts connected for years and years to come.